Hello job creators, how are you? Today this video is about KPIs, key performance indicators. The video today is divided into four parts. Part number 1, what are KPIs? Part number 2, importance of setting up KPIs. Part number 3, how to set up those KPIs. And part number 4 is common mistakes that job creators do while setting up KPIs. These are the four sections in which this video will be shared with you. You can easily call this a 4545 video. How 4545 could be an interesting question for you to understand. So why 4545? Because the videos sections are further having their own takeaways. First section has got 4 points, then second has got 5 points, then again third has got 4 points, and the fourth has got 5 points. Hence it is a 4545 video. Let's jump to section number 1, which is what are KPIs. So there are 4 points, as I said, in this section. Number 1, key performance indicators. How do you define that? Key performance indicators are measurable values which an organization uses to monitor its performance, evaluate the success or failure or improvement areas of an organization, evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of an organization, which then guides and monitors the decisions and its performance for an organization. The key performance indicators can be strategic, can be tactical, can be operational, can be financial, can be customer focused, process focused. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is, now if you were to understand with examples what are KPIs. So for a financial KPI, revenue or a profit could be a financial KPI. For a non-financial or a strategic KPI, it could be growth percentage. It could be net promoter score. Another example of non-financial KPI could be employee engagement rate. That's point number 2. Point number 3, how do you characterize a KPI? What are the characteristics of a KPI? KPI can be expressed in a number, in a percentage, in a ratio or a score, whatever you may like. But it should have essential ingredients of being a smart KPI, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And the third point is, it should align with your organizational's objectives and goals. Point number 4, how would you monitor a KPI? What are the actions you should take, or what are the ways in which you could monitor? A KPI can be monitored in the form of dashboard, in a form of report, in form of chart, in form of a table, and other formats as are easier for you and your leadership to evaluate, assess, and take the right decisions at the right time. That's first part. Now let's move on to the second part of the video, which is importance of setting up a KPI. As I said, this has got 5 key takeaways, 5 key learnings for you to implement. 1, the KPIs should be aligned to the objectives and goals of a business for it to be successful. And the objectives and goals could be profit, growth, performance, sales level, revenue performance, and other bits. It should 100% align to that. If the KPIs are not aligned to the goals of your organization, then my dear friends, you are setting it up for failure. Hence, you should be wary of that. Second point in this, the KPIs should enable to measure performance of the organization at your end in a realistic and objective manner. For example, you might want to compare your targets to the actual achievement. That could be a sales target, that could be a cost target, that could be a customer acquisition department target, that could be customer service target, and so on and so forth. But you have to compare your results with the benchmarks that you've set for yourself, and you should track the improvements and behaviors also of the organization and team's performance in order for it to be successful. And and performance could mean identifying a few weak spots as well. It is okay to have improvement areas or weak spots, so far as you are monitoring it and working on it, so that those weak points become your strength. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is you should have the right data interpretation of your KPIs, because we are these days overloaded with data. There is a definite opportunity to have a excessive analysis of a number, which in the normal slang we say analysis paralysis, right? So what it means is you overanalyze numbers where the interpretation does not go in the right direction. It may be absolutely misaligned to the purpose for which it was created and made at the first place. So data interpretation has to be aligned to the objectives of the organization, so that the right actions can be taken for the right problem statements and right matrices. Fourth, the KPIs shall offer meaningful feedback for the people involved, which is the employees, which is the leadership. Because a KPI, if is implemented in such a form that it is demotivating people, then also your business is set for failure. You need to be wary of the fact that it should give meaningful positive inputs for employees, which they can take action on, which they can improvise, so that they can add value to your organization. And trust me, no employee come to office to screw up their own day. It could be a lot of factors which end up maybe screwing a particular day or their performance. It is not the intention of an employee to not work, except in very very exceptional cases. If majority of them do not come to office to screw up their work, it means they need some guidance, some handholding, some mentoring, some tools and equipments for them to really implement it in their day-to-day life, so that they can be proud of their performance and they can give you exceptional results. So be wary of the fact, acknowledge their hard work, identify their mistakes, give them positive feedback, give them support so that they can action on those and give you results. They they giving the results will obviously give them the feeling of an accountability and responsibility as well. That is what you need to inculcate while setting up the KPIs. Fifth, and not the least, is you should then have KPIs which foster personal growth of each and every stakeholder involved in the process, and those will be your employees as well, and we'll talk more about it in the next section. But it should foster the personal growth, because if your matrices are not ensuring the growth of the people involved in it, your organization will never grow. Look at it like this: anything that you have done so far is a function of everyone who has contributed to your life. And now, in the business terms, it will mean everyone who has contributed to the business life also. Like in your families, your children, your parents, your spouse will add value to your success. So would your resources, including employees, will add value, and they should see that growth coming over to them as well. They should be successful alongside you. They should have those matrices in their hand, in their control, which they shall implement in their lives and deliver you exceptional results. And trust me, the process of measuring it in a positive manner and creating that environment of learning will add immense value to your organization. Measuring does not mean that the output of measuring has to be good. It can be bad. That's okay. It's part of the process. But unless you measure it, and give people an opportunity to grow with it, it will never be fostering enough for them to give back to your organization and make it grow leaps and bounds. So that's section number 2 of the video, which is around setting up the KPIs in the organization. Now let's move on to the next section, which is how to set up KPIs. By the 4-5-4-5 type of a video which I shared with you, this section has got 4 pointers for you to really think of and implement while you set up KPIs in your business. Point number 1, KPIs should 100% be aligned to your strategic objectives of the business. How to set up strategic KPIs is another subject for which we'll need another video, but it is important for you to understand that having strategic objectives in the business is very, very important, and all your KPIs shall align to those strategic objectives. And you should make sure that all your teams are also aligned to the strategic objectives of your business, because that is the only way possible for them to contribute to those strategic objectives. And carving out what is critical out of it is the next essential thing, and that's point number 2, which is what is essential as a KPI out of those strategic objectives, and how would you measure success from that KPI, which means that for you to measure a success, you need to have a criteria, you need to have definition of a KPI, you need to ensure the process that you follow to measure the success, and in what frequency you would measure the success. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is what is the goalpost. While you have defined what is a KPI, you have defined how would you measure, but what would the success look like? So if you achieve X, is that a success, or your success was 2x or 5x or 0.5x? That is what you need to define, which is a success that you as a business owner see, which drives the whole organization around you, right? So that's number 3. Number 4, your KPIs have always to be a smart KPI. We talked about it in section 1st of the video as well, but reiterating here because it's very, very important for a KPI to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. What you need to remember, and this is probably additional tip in this section of the video, is that you should not copy and paste your KPIs from any of your competition. Understand this, guys. The competition is in different stage of a business life cycle, and you are also in different stage of life cycle when both are compared to each other. If the stage is different, then the strategic objectives are also different, vision is also different, the growth path is also different. So how could KPIs be exactly same? You should have those differentiators which you want to create in your business, in your KPIs as well. So you should take care of that. Now additional things that you have to probably take care, and I'll just take 30 more seconds to give you last few things on in this section, is you have to be transparent with your people while defining KPIs and setting up KPIs. You have to make sure that your KPIs are realistic and achievable. You have to make sure that you incentivize people who are hitting your KPIs. Very, very, very important. If you not incentivize people who are giving you success, next time around they'll not be motivated enough to give you more success or even match up to that standards. Last but not the least, you have to have check-in meetings with them in their diaries, so that if there is anything that you can work and control as a preventive measure, you should do in time, right? So this is the third section of how to set up KPIs. Now let's move on to the most important section in this video, which is what are the common mistakes that people do while setting up KPIs. This is essentially made for you to be aware of what is not to be done in setting up the KPI process. Now, this section of a video has got 5 key things for you to look at and remember. Point number 1, you should not try to measure everything. You should define and prioritize your KPIs. What is strategic, what is tactical, what is operational, what is financial, what is non-financial, what is process based, etc., etc. You should define all your KPIs. You should mark importance of the KPIs, maybe by giving weights to KPIs, and pick up high weight items which should give you the relevant ones that you need to implement in your organization. Because if you end up measuring everything, you will end up not achieving anything. So that's an important thing that you have to look at and implement it as soon as possible in your organization, and not measure everything. You may have a different KPIs for your production manager, you may have different KPI for your CFO, you may have different KPI for your sales head, and so on and so forth. But your KPIs as owner and entrepreneur of your business would be entirely different than their KPIs. They will definitely be dependent on these. They will definitely be resultant of or resulting in their KPIs. That's separate. But you cannot focus on maybe hundreds of KPIs. So you'll have to have selected list of KPIs which are important for you. Point number 2, do not make an error of not linking your KPI to the strategy of your business. I cannot emphasize it enough and more. I've talked about it in probably 2 out of 3 sections in the earlier part of the video, that your KPIs have to be aligned to the strategy of your organization. It has to make sense to the overall goal of the organization, overall path that you have carved out for the organization. If you end up not aligning it, you will end up not achieving it. So don't do this, my dear friends. Point number 3, you should not make a mistake of having a KPI which is not a specific KPI. You have to be specific enough for you to have clarity, for your people to have clarity on what is being measured. Like, for example, if your KPI is achieving a revenue of, let's say, 10 million rupees, then it is a vague KPI unless you time it. 10 million rupees in 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, 10 year, with what quality, with what type of customers. Those type of things you have to specify while defining your customers, while defining your KPIs, while defining, in this case, your revenues. So you cannot have a non-specific KPI. That was 3rd. Point number 4, extremely important, is you should not make a mistake of not including your team in the KPI defining and implementation process. Your team is your resource. Your resource is contributed to the growth oblique degrowth of the organization. You have to make sure that how you utilize that resource to grow your business. You may do nothing to achieve a degrowth, but you have to do a lot of things to achieve growth in your business. And one of the critical things is to have your team, include your team in the KPI defining and designing process. They are the people who are working on the ground, doing the day in day out efforts to make sure every small thing in your business process falls in place and everything runs smoothly. So they will know the nuances of running this business and challenges which are on the ground, and they will be able to give you inputs, if considered well and evaluated rightly, to be included or excluded for measuring the KPIs. Last but not the least, point number 5, which is that you should not only focus on numbers, which is you should look at the financial and the non-financial KPIs as well. It is important to have growth. It is important to have right numbers, right sales, right cost, right profitability, growing maybe 20% year on year, or whatever be those KPIs. But it is extremely important to look at non-financial aspects of KPIs as well, which is quality, which is employee satisfaction rate, which is net promoter score, and all other things which are not really the numbers, but are huge contributors to the numbers and the end result that you want to achieve as an organization. So guys, this is my small video on KPIs. Again, just to recap, there were 4 sections in the video. Number 1, what are KPIs? Number 2, importance of setting up a KPI. Number 3, how to set up a KPI. Number 4, and most important, common mistakes that an entrepreneur or a job creator should avoid making while setting up a KPI. I hope you would have liked the video. Just try and recap in your heads by just a simple formula, which is 4-5-4-5. First section had 4 key takeaways, second had 5, third had again 4, and fourth had 5 takeaways for you to look at. I would like you to go through it again and comment in the comment box of did you like the video, what you want to include more, any questions, more than welcome, we'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much.